We are shown Yong, a famous boxer, in the first scene. He will soon turn 17, but he is already well known in national boxing tournaments. He is eager to return home one evening following a significant victory. They can't wait for him to see the surprise his mother and little sister are planning. Nevertheless, when Yong gets to his house, he discovers them covered in blood on the ground. He is attacked from behind and threatened with death as well. However, Yong, a skilled fighter, takes out the murderer's rage and beats him to death. The setting shifts to a high school 2 years later. A few guys are watching the news about Yong's detention. He killed robbers, but because he used his boxing skills to kill them, it was deemed an attack rather than self-defense. The teen was convicted of murder and sentenced to prison. Soo Bin, a shy child, is seated in front of the class. He was socially anxious as a result of the severe bullying at his previous school. However, he is getting his life back on track now that he has moved into this one, and he has made a few new friends. A new student is introduced to the class when the teacher arrives. Tony, a boxer, was the primary bully at Soo Bin's previous school. When Soo Bin sees Tony, she shakes in fear. He recalls every horrible memory of him stooping down in the dark. Tony demonstrates his dominance by beating up the previous bullies when the teacher is not present. He also says hello to Soo Bin and then starts hitting him without any justification. A girl stands up for Soo Bin and pushes away the bully. Tony, on the other hand, hits her as well. Soo Bin stops him for the first time in his life and begs him to leave her. He immediately feels bad about it because Tony is now certain to teach him a lesson. Soo Bin uses a ballpoint pen from the ground to defend himself. Soo Bin stabs Tony in the eye when Tony challenges him to use it in a panic. Soo Bin is being tried for attempted murder in the scene that comes after. He is found guilty and given a 2-year prison sentence because he is too afraid to speak up against the bully. The poor kid is then taken into custody and forced to board a bus full of young criminals. He happens to sit next to Yong and ends up liking him. All newcomers are eventually assigned to their respective cells. Min is a thief with whom Soo Bin forms friendships. They are both assigned to the same cell, where a man explains the inmates' hierarchy. There are 3 primary authorities. Han, Jun, and Akio. Jun is the good guy who prevents Akio and Han from unjustly beating people up. Recently, however, Akio and Han conspired against him and deceived him into being imprisoned alone. Since then, they have been in charge of the prison, giving orders to the inmates to move around and beating anyone they want. Nevertheless, everyone respects Yong, the prison's most important dog. He takes care of himself and never gets into a fight with anyone unless he is provoked. Because he is the best boxer among the inmates, even Akio and Han are afraid of him. Min and Soo Bin are watching a football game between Akio, Han, and their teams on their first day in prison. Han invites the injured players to join the game. They simply join him in the field because they don't want to cause any trouble. Han's team loses steam because Soo Bin barely moves. He closes his eyes to kick the ball out of fear of being punished, but he accidentally hits Akio in the nuts. The bully is in agony and falls to the ground in pain. Soo Bin is taken to a remote location by Akio and his aides once he has recovered. He recalls the incident at school when this happened to him. He cries, begs, and trembles in terror, but no one listens. They suddenly see Yong and act as though nothing is wrong. Soo Bin learns from this that even the bullies are afraid of him. He begs Yong for assistance as soon as their grip becomes loose. Yong prefers to concentrate on his work most of the time, but when he sees Soo Bin beg, he decides to assist him. When Akio tries to respond, he is punched to the ground in one blow. Surprised, Soo Bin has never seen anyone with such courage. The prison also offers education to the inmates. Akio keeps staring at Soo Bin in class, determined to teach him a lesson since he can't fight Yong. Soo Bin is then requested to go outside by a guard to meet a visitor. Tony, of course, is the visitor. He was stabbed in the eye, which also ended his boxing career, and has lost all vision in that eye. In addition, he was expelled from school and is now homeless and without a job. He attributes everything to Soo Bin and can't wait for him to be released from prison. In contrast, Soo Bin repeatedly apologizes and begs for forgiveness. He is terrified to face the bully again, but Tony is determined to kill him one day. Soo Bin sees Yong training outside through the window the following day in class. He realizes as a result that he has 2 years to train if he does not want Tony to kill him. He approaches Yong and asks him to teach him self-defense during recess. Yong initially declines because she is concerned that Soo Bin will use the information to bully others like the others. However, Soo Bin explains that he is sick of being the victim constantly. He has reached his breaking point and is unable to flee his fears any longer. Yang learns from the comment that Soo Bin is just a helpless kid. Because he has experienced being on the receiving end, he will not misuse his strength if trained. However, Soo Bin asks him to complete 100 laps in 40 minutes to test his endurance. If he is able to do so, the training will begin. Soo Bin begins to run, determined to demonstrate his worth, and despite his unfamiliarity, he maintains his pace. While he is at it, he recalls how Tony and his group abused, berated, and beaten him. He used to pee his pants as they kicked him repeatedly because he was so scared. He finds the strength to keep going at the thought of being in that situation once more. He is clearly struggling during the final few laps. Soo Bin completes all 100 laps despite Yang's pleas for him to stop. He collapses immediately and needs Yang to assist him. The boxer now recognizes that Soo Bin really requires assistance. As a result, he contacts the prison warden to be moved to his cell. The man knows that Yang is not a bad person because he has watched all of his boxing matches. As a result, he and Soo Bin can remain in the same cell. Yang gets Soo Bin ready for the first day of training in the next scene. Yang sighs when he is asked to perform a few push-ups, but his form is so bad. He enlists that he must be extremely persistent with the youngster. While Soo Bin is not accompanied by his boxer bodyguard, Akio is training and planning to confront him. Because Min used to be friends with Soo Bin, his aides say they should take him out on him. They can finally have their way with him if he can divert Soo Bin away from Yang. Seeing that Soo Bin is unable to even perform a pull-up, Yang asks him where he is and how he has managed to live with such a weak body. In response, Soo Bin asserts that he is too exhausted and wants to rest. When he agrees to train him, Yang almost wonders if he did the right thing. He makes it clear that Soo Bin will be returned to his cell if he takes the easy way out. Soo Bin keeps trying to do the pull-ups because this brings back the reason he started training in the first place. Soo Bin struggles to keep up with the increasing number of reps each day. He doesn't think he's training too hard until he sees real changes in his body. He and Yang develop a genuine friendship during this time. Tony frequently gets into fights with the gangsters in the neighborhood outside the prison. He confronts an entire group of men on his own one night, drawing the attention of a gangster. He gives Tony a job in his gang and a lot of money because he is impressed by the kid's abilities. Tony initially declines because he does not want to be used as a pawn. He even insults the gangster, which gets him slapped. The man offers him the last chance to join his gang, where he will receive training and work simultaneously. Tony accepts the offer and commences employment with him. Min and Soo Bin eat lunch together in prison the following day. We learn from their conversation that Yang will soon turn 18 and will be sent to adult prison. Because no one will be around to save Soo Bin from Akio after he leaves, he should be extra cautious around him. Soo Bin is disappointed that Yang did not inform him of this because he was unaware of it. He later inquires about Yang's exit from the jail. Yang concurs and requests that he concentrate on training instead. Soo Bin should get started as soon as possible because he would eventually be on his own. At the same time, two of Akio's pawns are bullying Min. They proceed to hit him, but Soo Bin halts them midway. When he is talking to the men, they ask him to look down. At the point when Soo receptacle declines, they assault him however he can without much of a stretch protect himself this time. After some time has passed, Akio learns what took place and turns red with rage. He orders his aides to bring Soo Bin to him in one of two ways. Soo Bin is begged to assist the minions because they are afraid of both parties. He agrees and goes to Akio's secret hideout to meet him. Soo Bin kneels down and asks for forgiveness for hitting his people before the thug can say anything. Additionally, he explains that Min was the only reason he was defending himself when they struck him first. Akio is even more enraged by the apology than before. After that, they get into a fight, and Soo Bin's punches show how far he's come. Although their strength and skill are comparable, Akio ultimately defeats him. Soo Bin is exhausted and completely battered as she lies on the ground. Until he stands up and gets ready for round 2, the fight seems over to everyone. He immediately gains the upper hand and continues to punch the opponent. When Yang arrives and halts him, the struggle comes to an end. They leave with pride, ensuring that Yang will never be tampered with again. Tony has been gaining recognition as a street fighter in the interim. He learns the cruel ways of gangs and is glad to have found a chance to do what he enjoys. Soo Bin and Yang conduct their final training session in the following scene. Yang can almost be hit in the face by Soo Bin. Yang leaves at the same time that the training is finished. Yang asks Soo Bin if he knows anything about sharks before he leaves. He goes on to say that a shark must always be moving because it will sink if it stops. He says his goodbyes and tells Soo Bin to act like a shark. Jun is freed from solitary confinement after he leaves. The bullying is bound to end in his presence. Han challenges Soo Bin to a fight that day. If Soo Bin wins, he says he won't bother anyone in the prison anymore. They decide to meet 5 days later behind the warehouse for the match. Tony arrives between this time to meet Soo Bin. He has been informed of the rumor that Soo Bin has been training and how strong he has become over the past year. He is excited rather than concerned because the fight between the two will be more intriguing. Han and Soo Bin fight in front of everyone in the following scene. They are equally skilled, but Han doesn't last long against Soo Bin's willpower. They are eventually discovered by the guards and placed in isolation. They are released a few days later. Han accepts his defeat and makes the promise to never harm anyone. All of the leaders start getting along with one another over time. There are no more fights in the prison, and everyone has friends. Yang is training another man like Soo Bin somewhere else. Yang keeps him motivated by pointing to Soo Bin's example when he is about to give up. After 2 years, it is finally time to let go of Soo Bin. Tony is outside waiting for him to impart a final lesson. He doesn't respond when Soo Bin asks him why he hates him so much. When the final fight begins, neither man is able to punch the other. Tony quickly gains the upper hand and continues to hit him as he did when they were in school. Soo Bin gets up when he is at his lowest and remembers Yong's comment about sharks. He attacks the bully with a special punch that Yang had taught him, and with renewed motivation, he defeats him. He then vanishes, leaving Tony with injuries behind. Soo Bin goes to the prison to meet Yang in the final scene. He appears to be beginning to question his theory about resting sharks after seeing one. The two of them laugh as Yang argues that the shark must have died. Turn on the notification, subscribe for more videos like this one, and like the channel to help out. I appreciate your attention.